This video is actually a follow-up video to one that I filmed previously where I talked about my experience doing a Peloton hack where essentially I purchased a cheaper bike and used the app version of Peloton, like the Apple Store app version, to create like a pseudo Peloton experience without spending the hefty price tag of an actual Peloton. And surprisingly, over the last few months since that video has gone up, I've gotten so many messages asking for an update, like how often I still use it, what are my thoughts, would I actually consider buying a real Peloton if I could go back. So I thought I would do like a comprehensive deep dive. That video was kind of a random thing for my channel, but you all seem to really enjoy it, and a lot of you have subscribed because of that video. So hopefully I will appease those of you that want to know about this. I'll go over pros and cons, etc, etc. Hopefully I will cover everything you want to hear or know about, so let's jump in. In case you missed the last video where I talked about this, I'll link it in a card as well as in the description box below, but I got the Cyclace, I think is how you pronounce it. Yeah, it's called the Cyclace Exercise Stationary Bike. And I saw a couple people recommend it, so that's the one I went for, but I know they have a ton of them that have an included screen in them, but they're not Peloton affiliated, so you have to kind of go with their, I believe, their exercise classes, so you can't have access to the Peloton classes, which if you saw that video, Peloton classes are kind of like, they have a cult following, it's very intense, and that's sort of the whole point of people buying this bike, is so that they can have access to these classes and then just have like a state-of-the-art bike as well. So yeah, as a recap, in case you missed it, basically you use a cheaper exercise bike, you go to the Peloton app on the App Store on your iPad, you set the iPad into the bike, there's like a little holder for it, and then you have access to the Peloton classes that way instead of just doing it through the actual Peloton bike. But I'm pretty sure everyone knows that, but just in case, there you go. One of the most common questions I get since posting that video is, do you still love it? How often do you use it, etc.? And my like kind of overall encapsulated thoughts would be yes. I love it so much. I purchased this bike on November 17th, so by the time I'm filming this video, it's been well over 3 months since I purchased it, going on 4 months, and I love it. It's my me time. It's where I feel like I get to zone out. I really like to start my day off by riding on this bike. It's kind of honestly the only exercise I'm doing these days besides taking my dog for long walks. As far as how often I use it, I would say anywhere from 2 to 4 times a week is typically how often I would use it. More around like 2 to 3, but on like a good week 4. Drew also uses it a ton, and that's kind of one thing I wanted to touch on, is that when I first bought this bike, I used it for the first like couple of weeks, and then I sort of just like stopped using it. I wasn't really exercising at all, and I mean that can fluctuate just in my life in general, you know, depending on like where my mental health is at the time, what I have going on, how motivated or unmotivated I'm feeling. So to be honest, I used it for a couple weeks and then it just sat there for like 2 months, unused by me. However, my boyfriend has been absolutely obsessed with it. He's been riding it like 3 to 4 times a week. He genuinely loves it. Like, we're both cycle gang for life. Like, we're really obsessed. Even though it took me a while to get to that point, I would say a few weeks ago, I really started using it regularly, and I'm just obsessed. I'm part of the cult. As far as like a little update on price goes, I did notice that when I first posted that video, it's just how it works on Amazon sometimes, but when I did film that video, the bike was still in stock, but then I believe like Black Friday happened or something like that, and then it went completely out of stock, and then now it's kind of fluctuated between being in and out of stock, but the price goes up and then it goes back down, and as of the day that I'm filming this, it's currently $384.99. As far as the actual bike itself, I mean, you can definitely tell that it's not perfect, but one of the things that I know a lot of people have issues with is the fact that, especially on a Peloton, when you're taking the classes, it does ask you to set your cadence to a certain number and then also your resistance to a certain number. But on this bike, there's just a knob, so there's no numbers as far as how much resistance you're setting. There's just kind of a knob and you have to guess. And then as far as cadence, there's nothing. There are Bluetooth cadence monitors that you can set up, and we bought one. We don't really use it that often. It's completely based off of your preference. So you can buy a Bluetooth monitor that you put on the pedal of your bike, and then it kind of measures your cadence that way, and then it pops up on your iPad screen inside the Peloton app so that you're at least able to keep up with how fast the instructor is going. You may not have an exact point of reference for the resistance, but cadence you can get kind of closer. Sometimes during a class, and this is really helpful when it does happen, the instructor will say something like, this should feel like you're on flat ground. Like this level of resistance should feel like you're just riding a bike down the street, or it should feel like you're going up a hill, or it's the pace of a run or a walk or a jog. All of those things are really helpful when the instructor says that, but obviously it is sometimes kind of like you're lost in the dark when a instructor is like, this number on this number on this, and like, we're gonna do this, and you're just kind of like, well, I guess I'm just gonna guess. For resistance, I kind of just go based on what feels right. So I'll crank it 1 or 2 times, and if it's too much, I'll dial it back a little bit. And then for cadence, I really just follow what the instructor is doing. A lot of times, like most times when Peloton instructors are doing classes, they'll have you kind of ride to the beat. So it's really not hard to follow along. Like you watch what their legs are doing and you kind of go the same pace. So that part's not really difficult. But again, I mentioned this like a million times in that other video. If numbers and targets and like staying on point and staying on the leaderboard and all of these things are really important to you, then this might not be a good option simply because a lot is left to your interpretation. But if you're like me and is just trying to do some joyful movement and celebrate your body and exercise because it feels good and just to get a workout in and not really worry too much about the numbers, then you should be fine. And as far as a couple specific pros and cons about the bike, I'll start with the pros because honestly, it's great. It was cheap, it was easy to install, it's very mobile, so you can like, there's wheels on the front of it and you can kind of pick it up and move it around easily. One person could easily do that, and it's just a really fun workout for me. Like I didn't realize how much cycling in place would be fun, but it's honestly a blast. When I'm selecting the Peloton classes, you know, I can pick from 90s and 2000s rides, or if you're into EDM, they have that. They have a lot of Broadway selections, they have country rides, and there's so many things in the Peloton app besides cycling, by the way. They have strength training, meditation, all different kinds of workout options for this app. So it's not just the cycling classes. You can do warm-ups, you can do cool downs, you can do stretching, you can do HIIT workouts. There are so many options available. So I feel like for the price point, it's extremely fair. If you compare the average, I would say the average cost of a gym membership is anywhere from like $20 to $70 a month. And this, you're getting so many different workouts. They're updating it almost every day, and it's just a freaking blast. Like I genuinely just love it. I look so forward to it, and it's my newest favorite form of self-care. I'm obsessed. And as far as cons go, I do have a few cons for this specific bike, and I just want to be as honest as possible because obviously some of you who are watching this may be influenced one way or another to buy this. So I do want to make sure that I'm also touching on the negative parts about it, or it's not really negative, like to me I love it, but you'll see. Things like, for example, the bike does take up space in your house. So if you live in a 1-bedroom apartment, it's gonna take up a good chunk of your living room or your bedroom or whatever. It's not huge by any means, but it is kind of an eyesore, just being honest. Some people have no issue with it whatsoever, but for me, I do like to have everything put away. I like everything to have a place. I don't like loose things hanging out. Like I like everything to have its place. Just Capricorn things. Another thing is kind of like I mentioned, there are a lot of moving parts. So I touched on this when I was sort of going over the bike in general when I first bought it, but now after using it for 3 months, it is something you do have to take into consideration when you're going to work out. You're like, okay, do I have access to my iPad right now, or is my boyfriend using it for work? Do I have access to the AirPods? Are they charged? Are both of the things charged? Luckily, where the bike is right next to an outlet, so I can like charge it while I'm riding it. So that helps. But for some people that might be annoying. Instead of just like, okay, gonna go ride the Peloton, hop on the bike, everything's ready to go for you. Since the Peloton bike itself or other exercise bikes similar to it, everything's already built in, that might be something that would annoy people, but for me, honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. The only 2 real like physical cons with the bike that I would kind of notice and want to like pass along as far as things that might deter people from buying it, and I can't remember if I touched on this after my first couple workouts, but after using it for a couple months, it's definitely really squeaky and like kind of loud. So you can hear, for example, when you're like sitting in the saddle and you're riding, you kind of like bounce a little bit and it's like like you can hear it squeaking while you're riding. And also you can hear it when you change the resistance. So the more resistance you add, it's obviously like applying pressure to the wheel. I believe it's like a foam padded little thing that like pushes down on the wheel that adds the resistance to it. So it makes noise. And the more resistance you add, the noisier it is. And I didn't really notice, and Drew didn't really notice, because we work out with headphones in, so it's like hard to hear. You have the Peloton instructor in your ear. But when the other person is working out, you can really hear it throughout the house. So maybe if you had neighbors that were like concerned about volume, or if you had people underneath you, you should be fine with like an exercise mat. I mean, it's not like so loud to the point where it's obnoxious. It's just, you can definitely hear it. So I did want to mention those and just sort of follow up along with the fact that it's definitely loud and noticeable, but it's not like so loud that it's unbearable to be around, if that makes sense. And I don't know if Pelotons are the same way. I don't have a point of reference for that, but for me, using this bike, it is something that I noticed. And also, on top of the squeakiness and the loudness, the seat does kind of move. So a lot of questions I got were about the seat, which I'll get into your questions in just a second. But the seat isn't the most comfortable, but it's not the most uncomfortable either. I would say probably the most uncomfortable seat I've ever done was SoulCycle, and then I went to a smaller studio in LA, and it was still pretty uncomfortable, but like a little bit better. And then this one is like a step up from those two. I have seen a few other people recommend seats for if you're in a plus size body. They sell wider and like more comfortable seats on Amazon. I've kind of considered it, but I do spend a lot of the workout out of the saddle as well. And it is true, like the saddle soreness thing really does kind of go away after using it for a while. I'm sensitive down there, so I do feel it from time to time, but I also have learned since riding classes that you're actually supposed to sit as far back on the seat as possible. And one of the instructors actually said in one of my classes that you're supposed to have a grabbable amount of booty hanging off of the back. So that's definitely helped with comfort a lot, but I wouldn't be opposed to getting a bigger seat, because why would you make yourself miserable like that? Like, just be comfy. Make it comfy. If any of you have the actual Peloton bike, I'd be really curious to know what your seat experience is like, because it's not bad. This is definitely the best one I've tried, but it's still, it could be better. There's room for improvement. So now for the Q&A section, I will answer a few of your top questions about it. And number one is, who are your favorite instructors? I answered this in a recent Q&A, but I would have to say so far, I typically gravitate towards female instructors, but I do love Tunde the most. She is absolutely mind-blowing with the level of like energy and endurance and strength she has. I'm like, couldn't be me, but she's unbelievable. I really like the double ride with Alex and Tunde where they did a Beyonce class. That was really enjoyable. Very hard, but you can always modify. I've also taken classes with Hannah. I really love Allie Love. I like Cody Rigsby. Those are probably my top 4 at the moment. Drew has like a completely different list of favorites. He typically goes for like guy instructors, but he has a lot of girl favorites as well, and he's taken a more like variety. Now it's like I have my faves and I just want to take for my faves, you know? But I do occasionally throw one in with like a random instructor that I've never tried before. But I would say those 4 are probably my favorite at the moment. As far as my favorite classes, I love anything pop, anything hip hop, anything 90s. I love 80s. I love any Beyonce class. I've taken all of the Beyonce classes. Really just like whatever mood I'm in. It kind of depends. I've taken like Black History Month classes where they feature Black artists or producers. Like, I just kind of go based on what my mood is, but those are kind of all my favorites. Mostly though, any kind of pop. Okay, let's do a little bit of a rapid fire. First, is the Peloton app worth it, or is it better to just do free YouTube videos for beginners? Honestly, I think the Peloton app is worth it. You can cancel at any time, and I believe when you sign up, you do get a free month, so it's worth checking out. I've never done any YouTube videos, but I'd love to try. If you want to see a video, ooh, that's a good video idea. If you want to see me do a video where I try YouTube cycling videos, that would be really fun. Let me know. Is the odometer from Amazon worth it, or can we wing it? I personally wing it. I think that that's just easier for me, but I do recommend it if you are a big numbers person. Realistically, how often do you go on it? Was it tough in the beginning? Realistically, like I said, 2-3 times a week. Was it tough in the beginning? Yes. I am still very much a beginner. Like, I try to take as many beginner classes as I can, and even those are extremely hard for me. I should probably touch on this for a second. I modify the workouts to whatever I'm feeling. I listen to my body, and I really love the instructors that say that. They're like, like get out of the saddle if you want, or don't. If you don't want to, listen to your body. It's just riding a bike. I love when they say that, like, we're just riding a bike. It's not that serious. Don't put too much pressure on yourself. So yes, I mean, you know, building up endurance is a difficult thing. It is a cardio workout and there's some strength involved, but it is a lot of cardio. And so you kind of have to build up to that. So be very gentle with yourself. Like, these people are very advanced athletically, and I do have to remind myself of that. So I try to take as many beginner classes as possible, but even though sometimes I'm like drenched in sweat and I'm just like, how? Good bike shorts for cycling. I actually love Girlfriend Collective. They're probably one of my favorites. Thick material, slightly compressive, but not too much, and then also American Eagle / Aerie. Two best brands in my opinion for any type of like bike short for working out. Do you get bored with cycling, or are the trainers / workouts fun enough to keep it enjoyable? I have not gotten bored one time. It's different every single time, and sometimes you're like kind of like getting through it and you're sweating and you're like, when is this gonna end type of thing. But truly, I have enjoyed every single class I've taken. There have been times where it's been harder than others, but I genuinely think it keeps it super fun and interesting because new classes are coming in all the time. I've gotten quite a few questions like, is it better than the Peloton? Do you think you would like a Peloton just as much? And I've never ridden a Peloton before, so I can't honestly compare. I could be totally missing out and have no idea, but for right now, I'm really happy with it. Does Peloton ever feel cult-like? Yes, sometimes. I know there are a lot of people who are really dedicated to Peloton. Sometimes you're in a class and a lot of times the instructor will shout out people. They'll shout out people who are taking the class that they're seeing live. Obviously, you're not taking it live, you're taking it like the next day or whatever. But they'll call out people and congratulate them for like their 1,000th ride, 2,000th ride, 3,000th ride, and you're like, huh? So yeah, sometimes it can feel a little culty. I know that Cody Rigsby has like a very cult-like following. It can feel that way sometimes, but really you're just like at home in your house, you know? You don't know any of these people, they don't know you, they don't see you. It's a very personal workout. So maybe if you were going like in person, it might feel that way, but at home, I didn't get that impression. Does the bike feel stable when you're cycling and for more intense, i.e. standing up type workouts? That's a really good question. There are some times where it gets a little shaky. It's a pretty sturdy bike, but it's not super heavy, so I would imagine something like a Peloton, which I think weighs like 200 pounds or something, would be a bit more like sturdy on the ground. There have been a couple times where I've noticed it, but it's never been to the point where I feel like it's gonna like fall over or that it's dangerous. Because I have my iPad resting on the front, it does sometimes feel like it gets a little wobbly, especially like the question said when you're out of the saddle and kind of like it's more jerky, I guess, but it honestly feels completely fine for me. Quite a few questions about like saddle soreness, does my butt hurt, how's my butthole, etc. It does get better, like I mentioned, and you can also, I forgot to mention this, you can put like little gel covers, you can buy gel covers like for the seat, you can buy padded bike shorts, like there's a lot of other things you can do so that it's easier when you're trying to adjust to the saddle soreness. And then the probably number one asked question is, would you buy a Peloton now if you could go back? Is it worth it? Do you wish that you had bought a Peloton? Are you gonna buy an actual Peloton in the future? And the answer to that right now is no. Honestly, I feel really comfortable with where I'm at with this bike. I mean, I'm always curious about what a Peloton is actually like. Hopefully one of these days I'll get to ride one of my friends, you know, when I see my friends again and get sort of a better taste of what it's actually like. Hopefully that'll happen sooner than later, but for right now I feel pretty comfortable with where I'm at. You know, it's easy. I didn't spend a whole lot of money on it, and that price point is just really hefty for me, and especially because when I first bought this bike, I didn't ride it for like a month and a half, and that would have been so devastating, and that's why I decided to try out this hack before I sprung on an actual Peloton. The thought of actually leaving it sitting in my house while I paid however many dollars a month for the subscription on top of the actual price of the Peloton itself kind of makes me sad. So that's why I wanted to try this out and go this route first, and I'm really glad I did. I don't have any plans to change it up anytime soon. Drew and I had kind of mentioned that maybe after like a year, like let's give it a year and see if a year later we're still cycling and still taking Peloton classes and still super interested in it, then maybe we'll consider selling this bike and getting a Peloton. Exercise equipment feels like one of those things that gets pretty underused by a lot of people. You know, people buy ellipticals or Stairmasters scooters or those like Bowflex thingies or treadmills or bikes or whatever, and then they'll end up selling it because they don't use it. And so I just didn't want that to happen. So I figured with a cheaper option available, I would just try that out before springing on the actual Peloton. But who knows, maybe someday I'll take the plunge and I'll be like, hey, here's my Peloton video. You never know. So I hope I answered as many questions as possible. I definitely feel like most of them were kind of around these same topics. So if you have any additional questions, definitely leave them in the comments below. If you couldn't tell, I'm pretty happy with this bike. Like, it's very average, I'll say. Like, it's not the most incredible thing in the entire world, but it just really works for what we need it for right now, so we're happy. So I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. You can also turn on my post notifications if you want to be notified every time I post a new video. If you have any other exercise, or I guess you could say wellness themed videos that you want to see on my channel, let me know in the comments below. If you want to see more like at-home workout videos, I've done videos in the past where I work out every day for a week, or try to be healthy for a week, or try YouTuber workouts, etc., etc. Leave it all in a request down below. But I love you all so much. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.